Welcome to Dice Controlled Dojo. I'm Phil and I practice daily and share my tips so we can all do better at the craps table. Today we're talking about charting. I'm going to go over my last 10 throws here today for my practice. I've already thrown a bunch and I'm just going to throw my last 10. I want to go over how I'm tracking, what I'm looking for, the on axis, the left dice off, the right dice off, both dice off, and then what I'm doing with it to analyze it at the end. So I've been practicing this morning, and if you can see, I am not doing too well. I've thrown a lot. I'm not finding my landing zone today, so I'm struggling with that. So as I go through these last 10 throws, I want to make sure I'm talking about my analysis. So if you're looking at the screen, I started out with a lot of write-offs where the red die is off axis. When I'm hitting primes, they're sevening out, which is not great. So today I'm just going to throw my last 10, and I'm going to analyze what I'm doing. So my last 5 or 6 throws, the right dice have been off a little bit, but I'm still not finding the perfect landing zone. So tomorrow I'm going to be sharpshooting and just trying to be specific about my throw for when I'm analyzing this data. So we use the bone tracker. You can get this free Axis Power Craps. That gentleman offers it up for free. If you do a higher version with a higher Windows, it may cost you a little bit, but the free one is an awesome one, and I'm not going to go over how to use this like that. I'm just going to show you how I'm using it, because there are great videos out there from all of the guys who track it, hour-long videos on how to analyze and look at this. But I'm just showing you how I'm charting on a daily basis. So I did all my warm-ups this morning. I did all my throws. Now I'm working on the last 36 throws. That is a concentrated, deliberate practice. And as I'm throwing, if you notice, I am picking up the dice nice and light. I once again show you that I put some markings down on my fingers so that they line up each time. It makes it a little easier for me when I'm practicing. You may not want to do that on the floor, but here I'm doing it so that I'm lining up my dice. I'm relaxing, picking my landing zone, and throwing. And that was a 6-3-9er. 6-3-9er. So as you see, I mark it down here. And when I'm tracking that, you're trying to see that that's once again the left is off axis. So I go to ask you, we're talking about hard ways and how I'm tracking these. And the hard ways is easy when you're practicing, so you can see if one's off or if it's all together. And when the 6 or the 1 shows, you can tell. Now see, that landing zone was bad. This was a 6-3-9er again. So as I'm practicing, if you're noticing, I'm not finding my landing zone very well and things are spewing off. So I got to get back to basics on that. In my last few throws, I'm going to try and work on that. So when I'm at a casino, I can try and make sure that I can adjust while I'm throwing. But as you see, I'm throwing one off axis and I'm winning money. So the question is, I also like throwing the hard ways, because if you have one dice off axis, which we do a lot, it's hard to throw on axis all the time. You make a mistake, it benefits you, right? Because you're throwing one off axis, it's harder to throw a 7. So here was a hard 8, which is a 44. That's on axis, so that was a nice throw. I found a zone there, and I threw it in there so I could get there. So when your left dice or right dice are off axis, upcoming videos we're going to talk about, I'm going to throw to make sure the left or the right are completely off and show you what the different things are, whether it's your fingers, your throw, your toss, what the coaches say. So here's an on axis. I was on axis. As you can see, it flailed, but that's a 2-5-7. So I enter that in, and all of a sudden, my SRR is back down to 6.2. Now, don't freak out when you're looking at your SRR for just 36 throws. It's cumulative. It's over a course of a long time, because that's where you're trying to make your magic, right? Over long term. When you get to the casino and you're only throwing 20 times, you can't look at an SRR like that. That's real life conditions, and things change, as people say. That's why a lot of people don't believe in dice control, because they're saying there's too many variables. And I agree, there's a ton of variables. But I look at that like in golf, right? If you're going to go to a course and play golf at any different course, you haven't been there before. So you got to rely on your basic strategy and your basics in order to get through that course and be at par or under par or shoot a well round of golf. It's the same in craps. All the variables are going to change. So let's try and eliminate as many of them as we can to try and just change that odds just a little bit. So that was a 1-3-4. I'm going to try and really concentrate on this one here. Relaxing, almost letting go, making sure my fingers are nice and tight. Relaxing and releasing. See, I went into the corner. That's a 1-2-3. And also, gentlemen and ladies, I'm saying you got to throw faster when you're on the. I know I have to throw faster, but as I'm talking to you, I'm trying to entertain you. But you really got to grab them, set them, and throw them a little quicker than I'm doing right now. And in future videos, I'll show you how that looks, because that's what I do when I'm doing my last 36. It's real life conditions. And now, see, that was a nice plop. I hit the back wall. They both came out together and sat. One spun a little off, and that was a 4-6-10. So that was a little off axis, but it didn't hurt, right? Because I had one off. So that's why I'm talking about the hard ways again. The hard ways is awesome, because if you're not going to be on axis, where you have an opportunity of 4 sevens on axis, and you're generally off axis one way or another, is that you're generally going to do well. So now see, that was on axis, and that was a 4-3-7 out. So if you looked at that last throw, though, one of them curled around, and I can't help that, except for all my thoughts is lower, slower, relax. So I love throwing when I'm videotaping with you, because it gives me that nervousness that I get when I'm in a casino and I have to throw in front of people. I got to practice that, because that energy is different than when you're home throwing 500 times a day. So that one fell way out. I hit the zone, but it wasn't. They hit the back wall and they got random a little bit. So that was it. So let's go over my practice numbers today. And if you can see on the screen, I threw an SRR of 6, which is just random. So all of you people that doubt this is dying laughing right now, because you're like, oh, there you go, you're random. But what am I taking away from this today? If you're looking deep into how I'm throwing, I had a lot of left and right axes. When I was throwing on axis, I was throwing sevens. So I just keep thinking my landing zone was way off. I was over the left to the right. I wasn't really in the groove today. It wasn't a good practice session for me, but that's okay. So I looked at this. If you look at this, I was a little bit above my box numbers. My primary hits, I was way down. And then my double pitches, which means I was hitting a 7, was way up. So this is a very small statistic that you can look at, but it's just not going to be conducive. What I'm really looking at are these left and right off axes, and if I can cut them down so that I can get better with them. If I look at my cumulative dose for since I've started this 90 days, I'm at 236 throws. My SRR is at 9.83. But remember, a lot of times when I'm throwing 36, I'm working on something. So I'm not relying mainly on the SRR. I'm looking mainly at the left and right and double pitch and off axis and in the count, basically. So when I'm really working hard at this and I'm looking at the numbers, I'm analyzing where are my throws, where am I, and how am I going to get better for the next time. I'm analyzing that data. If you go, I have my cumulative, and then I have my original 360 right here, where you can see that I'm 6.32, which is not enough it's almost random. You've got to get up in the sevens. And I'm really working on how I'm going to get better with the throws by analyzing this data. So when you're taking the regular 36 rolls, please don't look at the SRR on that day. Just analyze the information that's on this screen and see what you can do to try and get more into the prime numbers so that the 4-4 hits and the 6-6, I mean the 3-3. So working on how you're doing on that day will help you analyze for the future. So what did we learn today? Hopefully, while you're watching my practice, you can see how I look at this, not as an SRR, but more as a way of seeing how I'm throwing, what I'm throwing. And then this information, along with how I'm analyzing where the dice are, hopefully will get me better tomorrow and hopefully get me better when I go to Vegas. So join me tomorrow. We're going to talk about the dead cat practice, why we do it, what the point is, and hopefully show you how you can get better at analyzing how far away you are from a table when you get on a real live table. So join me tomorrow, and as always, the best strategy is to throw for a long, long time.